that you can only achieve one of those goals, which one is that standout goal for you? Which is that goal that's like the most impactful goal, that the one that would change your life the most, the one that would have just such a big impact on you and in such a positive way?
Hello, welcome to another episode of Radiant Women. I'm very excited for you to be here, and I'm very excited for you to meet our next guest. Her name is Renae O'Neill, and she is a mum of two. She has a podcast, the Mum Boss podcast, which I was a part of, and she's absolutely brilliant at what she does. And she's also a life and business coach for mums, helping them to be present whilst also having a successful business. Now, if you're a mum, I know that's something that I've struggled with. I think every parent has struggled with. So she's absolutely brilliant at what she does. Because you can actually have both. You can have the business and you can have happy, healthy children who you don't have to have the mum guilt with. Her mission is to help any mums create a life and business they love and are lit up by it. I'm so excited to interview her, and we can explore many different topics about motherhood and business. So welcome, Renae.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Renae, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So, yes, I'm Renae. I'm first and foremost, I guess, a wife and a mum of two. I have a nearly 10-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. And I'm also a life and business coach for mums. So I really help mums, I guess, find that balance, in quotation marks, between the juggle of mum life and also, you know, creating and having that successful business, because I really believe that, you know, you can be that present mum you're wanting to be, but you can also be fulfilled in a career or a business that really lights you up as well. So that is what I do, and that is definitely what I'm most passionate about as well.
Wow. And that is such a important work to be done, because I know that when I became a mum, all of a sudden this, you know, I had to split this time in even more ways. I mean, I had no time before, then I had to somehow find extra time, but this time it was different, you know, like when you jump into a relationship, you have to, you know, now find a time for this new partner. But once you have kids and you have someone relying on you so much, and especially through those early years, and then everything you do is, you know, it's sort of, you have them in the back of your mind. And of course, if you're spending too much time at work, one of the things I've certainly dealt with and struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is mum guilt. You know, am I not giving my child enough? Did you encounter that yourself? Do you have a lot of clients that go through that?
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, I haven't met a single mum who hasn't experienced mum guilt in some stage or in some form. Like, it's such a normal thing. And, you know, it can be hard to deal with. You know, it can be a struggle when you're feeling guilty. And I think in particular for women in business, or, you know, women that have that corporate career or that, you know, driven career that they're in, you're often, when you're with your children, you're thinking about your business or your career. And then likewise, when you're in your business or in your career, you're thinking about your kids, and there's this constant guilt between the two. And so it's a matter of finding that happy medium, finding that harmony where you feel like you're being fulfilled in your career, yes, but you're also spending that time that you want to with your children as well. And also just knowing that, you know, what you're doing is enough. Like, sometimes I think it's that we feel like we're not doing enough. And the reality is we are. You know, we are enough for our children. We are enough for our families. And I think it's getting to that place of acceptance, of knowing that, you know what, I'm actually a good mum. I'm giving my kids what they need. I love them. I spend time with them. But at the same time, I'm also still a human being who wants to be fulfilled in my career, who wants to have that business that lights me up. And I'm allowed to have that too. You know, you can have both. It's just finding that way that works for you. And there's no one size fits all approach, I don't think either. It's sort of, you've got to look at the season of life you're in, you know, where you're at, what you're wanting to achieve. And, you know, I think also just letting go of that comparison with others. I think we get so caught up in looking to someone else and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing what she's doing. And then you feel that lack, or, you know, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. And we compare to others and just feel like we don't measure up. And so easier said than done, I know. But, you know, if you're in a trap where you're feeling like you are looking to someone else and then you're casting judgment on yourself, find a way that you can kind of put a barrier up. You know, if it is social media, for instance, unfollow or just block the app altogether if you need to. You know, it's a matter of finding that happy ground where you feel like you're not in that trap of comparison, because I think that comes into play when it comes into the whole mum guilt scenario as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I can 100% see that, because I think it's whether we're comparing ourselves to someone else or whether we grew up with expectation. And so we, you know, when we go into anything, we sort of have an idea or a belief about what this should be, right? And so when we don't reach that, then we don't feel enough. We don't feel like we're doing enough. And I've always certainly found that it's more quality over quantity. So if I can when I do spend the time with my daughter, that it's 100% just focused on her, what she needs, what she's doing, that she sort of feels much more satisfied, because when after that, you know, if she wants to play on her own, she's happy to, as opposed to if I'm trying to juggle everything and trying to be 10 things all at once and really not succeeding at anything.
I definitely think it is about having that intention. It's sort of, you know, if you are spending time with your children, spend time with them, pop the phone away, you know, leave everything else aside. And then likewise, when you're in your business or career, focus in on that and know that you've got your time with your children later. So it's sort of really immersing yourself in what you're doing and focusing just on that purely. I think it's hard though, because I feel like we're so driven to multitask, like it's ingrained in us to multitask, and everyone talks about multitasking like it's a good productivity way to be. But I feel like multitasking can actually take us away from that present moment that we're in as well. So I'm more a do one thing at a time kind of person.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, if you can focus on that, it's sort of like a form of meditation, because you are not being because we are constantly distracted by everything. So if we train our mind to be focused on one thing, I mean, that is beautiful. It's also so good for us as well. I think a lot of people, especially sort of coming into the new year, and just, you know, what we've been through with the world and everything, I think a lot of people are waking up to this notion, or to this idea, you know, I want to do more, whether I am a mum or I'm not, or whether I'm getting there, whatever the situation is, I want to do more. I want to do more with my life. You know, if you're working for someone, or if you're stuck in a job that you don't like, you kind of have that enough, you know, like you just had that, I'm done. I want to do something for myself. I want to do something that lights me up. I want to do it my way. I want to help the world. So tell us, I'm sure you've worked with so many clients who were on this path. Tell us, if we are on this path of, I want to do it, but I'm not actually doing anything, what do we do? How do we bridge that gap between I want to and me actually being in it?
Such a great question, because I think in, you know, the last couple of years in particular, we've seen a lot of this, you know, where people are leaving jobs to go and pursue something that they're wanting to pursue, or start that business that they've always wanted to start. And, you know, I'm actually living an example of that myself. I had previously been working in my local hospital, and I'd been in that role for 11 and a half years. and, you know, the pandemic started and I'm working in a hospital environment. Like it's not necessarily the place that you want to be. And for me, like the whole pandemic situation, it got you questioning. It got you sort of thinking, like, is this what I want for my life? And you start, you know, you get these moments of doubt. And I'm sure, you know, you and listeners have had those moments where they're like, you know what, is this the life I want to be living? Is this the career I want? Is this, you know, what I want in my life? And I think when you start getting those questions or that doubt, really tune into that and start paying attention to that and ask yourself, like, what is it that I want? Start exploring the possibilities of, you know, if I could have anything, what would it be? What would it look like? How would it feel? And start looking at that. And I know for me, when I got to that point where I started questioning these things, I was like, you know, I need to make a change. And as scary as it was, to make that leap of faith, to leave that job behind and go all in on my business, honestly, looking back, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I'm so glad that I followed that gut instinct I had to chase this dream and go after it. But, you know, there are steps involved. And, you know, I'd love to share with your listeners, you know, it's always great listening to podcasts, don't get me wrong. You know, you get to hear somebody's journey and experiences and, you know, be inspired, but it's always really nice to actually walk away with something really tangible that you can actually implement. So I would love to share, I guess, a little goal setting exercise that I personally did back when I got those moments of questioning and like, what do I want? And, you know, you start exploring that. So for listeners who are listening along, you know, I'd love for you to kind of think about a year from now. You know, it's a year from the date that this is launched, and write down or even just think about 10 goals that you would like to achieve over this next 12 months for yourself. This can be like personal, it can be business, it can be a mixture of both. There are no rules here. It's just what you want to achieve. And they can be big and small too. It can be big, grand things like quit your job and start your business, or, you know, reach a certain income in your business. It could be, you know, sell up and move to that dream destination you've always wanted to live in. It can be whatever it looks like for you. And then out of those 10 goals that you've set for yourself that you're like, these are the things I'd really love to have happen over this next 12 months. If I was to ask you, if I was to tell you, I should say, that you can only achieve one of those goals, which one is that standout goal for you? Which is that goal that's like the most impactful goal, that the one that would change your life the most, the one that would have just such a big impact on you and in such a positive way? And then from there, I'd love for you to start brainstorming all the steps you would need to take from the person you are now to the person who's achieved that goal. And it doesn't have to be in a step-by-step, you know, first step, this is what I need to do. It can be messy. It can be you're just blurting it all out. These are all the things, or these are all the possibilities of how I can achieve that one goal. Because sometimes we've got to remember too, we have the goal of that end destination in mind, but there might be different roads and paths you might travel to get to that destination. You might think it's going to look one way, but it might end up looking another way altogether. So 100%. Brainstorm out all of those ideas, and they end up being your steps and your tasks to achieving your goal. And then each day, look over that list and ask yourself, you know, is there something I can achieve out of that list today? And even if you can't achieve that full thing, is there something I can at least work towards? Because, you know, if we can do 1% towards a goal every single day over a whole 12-month period, that's 365% change that we've created. That's 365% growth that we've achieved. And so sometimes we can have these big grand goals and they seem so out of reach and so far away, but sometimes we need to just peel back the layers and take it that little step by step, you know. And it starts with, I feel like, having that clarity of what it is that you want. Let's break it down to something, you know, achievable and work from there. But definitely for anyone listening that's feeling like, you know what, I really want to go after this goal and I'm scared, my biggest advice is just, if you're getting that niggle, that nudge, that instinct of this is something I want, and that voice is not leaving you alone, I personally believe that is your intuition saying to you, this is something that you need to go after. And I know it can be scary and I know it can be daunting, but it is that one step at a time, that 1% at a time, and, you know, you'll be well on your way to achieving that.
Wow. Yes. I absolutely love that exercise. I was kind of doing it in my head as we were doing it. I didn't obviously get to all the 10 goals, but I love this idea that taking those micro steps where, you know, we're not, because the idea of jumping into something new, is a massive step. And it can be so scary because we're going into something unknown. So doing an exercise like this, where we're focusing on, we've narrowed down what we want to do, what is a non-negotiable for us. Because if you had 10 goals and you were able to circle that one, you know that is a must for you. And thinking about what steps we can take and how do we get there. But at the same time, you obviously, you may still hold on to your old life for whatever reasons, and that's okay. I can do that simultaneously until I am ready to let go of old life, or until my old life pushes me out to that, I have no choice but to let go.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, sometimes we do, especially when it comes to, careers and, pursuing a business, sometimes we need to hang on to that security of that job that we have for the income and that security it provides. But it doesn't mean that on the side you can't go after that business that you're wanting to, start up, or, go and get the course and start learning a new skill towards getting towards that point of having that business. You can take it one step at a time, and there's no right or wrong. You don't have to go all in at once. It can be taking those little baby steps and warming up to the idea, and you'll find that you'll just create that momentum and things will just unfold from there.
Yes, yeah. I love that. Tell us, when we are, if we're going down this path and we are creating something that we want, and 100% there will be I think there was for everyone, and there still will be times where we either get discouraged or something happens and we want to give up and we want to, slow down, or we drop the ball or something like that. Tell us what we can do to push past that and to get out of that.
Well, firstly, I mean, it's almost inevitable that will happen. And I know that can be really hard to hear, but that's sort of the reality of it. That's life. There's always going to be the ebbs and flows, the ups, the downs, that's going to happen. And I think almost having that awareness and knowing that it will happen can also take a bit of the hit off. But I think also when you set yourself a goal that you're going after and you're wanting to achieve, it's also getting really clear on, why do you want this? What is it? What is the thing that you're wanting to achieve? What's it going to do for you? How are you going to feel? What's it going to change for you? What's going to be that thing that makes you motivated to keep on going? Because, if it is to sell your house and buy a new house, it's not necessarily the new house that's going to keep you going to pursue that goal when you hit little lulls or you hit those moments where you start doubting yourself. It's the family atmosphere it's going to create. It's the extra space it will provide. It's looking at that goal and being like, what is the real why behind this? The deep why, not just the surface level. And that is what will keep you going. And, I think anchoring onto that at all times will really help. And, it might be that as a journaling exercise, you write in your journal every single day, like, this is the goal that I'm going after and this is why, and visualize, you achieving this goal and what it's going to feel like, anchoring into the feeling of how it's going to be as well. And I think that excitement and that motivation will help you get through those moments. But yeah, I mean, it happens to us all. Like when we're chasing after that goal, there are times where doubt comes into play, and, you know, it starts feeling hard, you know, or you're not feeling like it's coming quick enough. Like I feel like patience always comes into play, and I don't know if that's everyone, but that's definitely me. Like I want it yesterday, not tomorrow. Yeah, anchoring into that why, I feel is the key thing to keep you, that driver to keep you going.
Oh, yes. And so again, what we talked about, it comes back to that intention of why we're doing what we're doing and how can we focus on it. And I love what you've said there about doing exercises when we do have the motivation and when we're going good. It's kind of like gathering that wood, so to keep the fire going when, you know, when there is no more wood, when we don't feel like, you know, we can't be bothered getting up to do anything. You know, we've gathered all this wood to keep the fire burning until we ride this wave until we, you know, we come back to that. Okay, I'm back into motivation. I'm back into going at it. Tell us then, and I know this, with the new year coming in, there'll be a lot of people creating new goals or challenges or New Year's resolutions. I think I've read somewhere that in gyms, like the first week or two of the new year is like the busiest time of the year because everybody has created a New Year resolution that they're going to get fit. And then as the months go on, there's less and less people because, you know, they lose that interest. But what is the key thing to keep up that, whether it's a resolution or whether we're starting out something? I know we talked about sort of getting back into that intention. But is there anything else that we can do to help us really stick to whatever it is that we are making or wherever it is we're deciding?
I think it is really looking at your non-negotiables. You know, if you are somebody that is going to create this goal, who is she and what are the daily non-negotiables she has? What are the habits that she has for herself? And then looking at how you can implement them now. And, you know,
okay,
when it comes to habits, we're wanting to establish these habits and these daily non-negotiables so we can work towards that goal. And I think sometimes like with your description of, you know, going to the gym, you know, people set New Year's resolutions and these goals at the beginning of the year, and then they go really hard in. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week and I'm going to work out for an hour at a time. And they're able to do that for the first couple of weeks, but then, you know, it slowly dies back from there. So it's looking at your daily habits that you have, your daily routines and your non-negotiables, and just, even if it's just changing one thing at a time, introduce one new habit that's towards that goal that you're wanting to achieve. And once that habit has become this inbuilt thing, you know, they say it takes 30 days to build a habit into your, you know, daily rituals. Once you've established that, then build upon that. Let's introduce another habit that we can put into our day, and slow and steady. I feel like it's like that whole slow and steady wins the race. If you can do that, you will keep the momentum going and you will keep building upon that. Whereas if you go all or nothing approach where it's like, I'm going to do the gym 5 days a week, you may just fall off the horse. So I really think that, you know, getting those daily habits in place, and just one thing at a time. You know, it doesn't have to be too many things where it becomes overwhelming. And then, you know, once that motivation and inspiration's died off, you might not keep up with it. But, you know, if you can just focus in on introducing one thing, and it might be that you know, spend, if it's creating a business, for instance, it might be that you focus, you know, a couple of hours a week to dedicating time to your business. So, you know, that might look like scheduling that time in your schedule And once you've started doing that and you've done it for, that 4-week kind of mark, you can then introduce something else on top of that, and you kind of build on from there.
I love that because I love because it has so much. Again, it's about taking those small steps and really doing the work to become the person that you want to be, or do the things that you want to do. But it's through persistence and through showing up for yourself every single day, as opposed to trying to get it in all at once and trying to make this drastic change. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. I heard this story about, and I think it was Jim Carrey, but I'm 90% sure it was Jim Carrey. And he was talking about, so somebody asked him, how do I become, no, sorry, it was Jerry Seinfeld. How do I become such a great comedian such as you? And he was saying that, but what you have to do is tell a joke every single day. And you go, and so in your calendar, you create this so on every single day, or you write a joke every single day. And so you can't break the chain. So no matter what, rain, sunshine, hail, no matter what, you have to put that X in that calendar so you never break that chain. And that's how you become as good as he is by showing up for your goal, for yourself every single day. In the same way, when we become parents, we have to show up for our children. When we become partners, we have to show up for our partners. We have to show up for ourselves and for our goal every single day. And then that's how we get to where we want to go.
That's right. It's all about that consistency. And I honestly think sometimes we just overcomplicate things. It sounds so simple to be like, oh, one step at a time, just change one thing and, be consistent in that and then build upon it. And it's like, it sounds so simple, but these simple things have the greatest impact. But not only that, you can sustain it because it is only, you've broken it down to be so simple. And so, yeah, it's always interesting because I really do one thing I always ask myself when I think about, overcomplicating things is asking myself, what would this look like if it was easy? And then do that. Because we just tend to really complicate things. And, I always find it fascinating, especially when we go into a new year, when it is New Year's resolutions and everyone's wanting to change everything at once. They're going to get up earlier, they're going to read more, they're going to go to the gym, they're going to drink more water. And don't get me wrong, these are all great things and things that are amazing to be doing. But trying to change basically every aspect of your life at once on the 1st of January and sticking with that, it's just overcomplicated. Strip it back. Let's just focus on one goal, one step at a time, and be consistent with that.
Yes, 100%. I love that. And it is, I love that simplicity of it. And as you said, if this was simple, what would it look like? Because those habits, they are, when we think about everything that we kind of implemented in our life, that's for the better, is so simple. It's not rocket science. I think just in our head, we create this big mountain and we're like, how am I going to ever cross that? And it's really, as you said, one little step at a time, showing up every day. And then we see the change when we look back. I was like, oh, a year ago, I didn't do all of those things. Or a year ago, it looked like this. Now it looks like this.
Yeah. And actually,
Renae,
I was going to say, I think it's an important piece too when we're thinking about goals is to also not to forget to reflect as well. Before we go into a stage of looking for the future and the goals we're wanting to achieve, it's also really important to stop and reflect over the year that's been, look at the last 12 months, 6 months, ask yourself, what worked, what didn't, what was, if you look over your calendar, where did I spend my time most? What would I like to change? And I think sometimes having that moment to just reflect on the time that you've had is really helpful before you go into goal setting as well.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. 100%. tell us if someone wants to work with you, or, to help them, whether it's to manage that, life balance, or, whether it is, they have something for the new year that, or at any point that they want to really get into, but they're not sure how to get there. And I can attest to based on my own experience and pretty much everyone that I have spoken to, that one of the most helpful ways to get to from where you are to where you want to go is get someone who has walked a path, who has already figured out how to get there, so you don't have to figure out every single step, because there will be a million challenges on the way, and there is meant to be. So if you can take some of that pressure off, and you don't have to figure out, you don't have to invent the wheel because someone else has figured out how to make it, it is absolutely the most rewarding thing. So tell us, if someone wants to work with you, where can they find you and how can they work with you?
Yeah, so I guess the best place to connect with me is probably over on Instagram. That's my place that I like to hang out the most. So you can find me at Renae.O'Neill. I too also have a podcast, which you are going to be a guest on, which I'm very excited about. So you can find my podcast, the Mum Boss Podcast. But yeah, there are a few different ways to work with me at the moment, and I'm taking on clients at the moment. So I guess the best place to look for that is over on my website, which is just renaeo'neill.com. But yes, it's an amazing time of year, I think, to, work with somebody, because you have got that accountability, but you've also got that support and guidance that can really help you through achieving it, whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. So I would love for you to come over and say hi and connect with me.
Yes, absolutely, guys. If you when you hear this, please, if you're thinking about it, just jump onto Renae's either website or on her Instagram. I have spoken to her. We keep in touch quite a few times, and I know how busy she can get. So I know if there's a free spot, it fills up fast. Yes, we will tag. So wherever you're listening to this, it will be in the description, show notes, all of Renae's social media and her website, so you can find it really quick. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing this so much wisdom in something simple, but so much wisdom that, we've just sort of discussed.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honored to have been here. Thank you.